Welcome to The Drive with your automotive experts and hosts, Lauren Fix and Karl Brauer. Each week we dive into breaking car news, share our latest vehicle reviews, and bring you up to speed on what's happening in the automotive world. Buckle up and hit the road with us. This is The Drive.
Welcome to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. I am your host, Karl Brauer, with my lovely co-host, Lauren Fix. Lauren, how are we doing today?
I'm great. Spring is here. It means it's time to get your car cleaned and ready for the road. But we have an excellent guest with us, a return guest, our good friend, Al Vazquez, who lives in Miami and had a very special experience. Hi, Al. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for inviting me back. I'm very happy to be here. I really think you guys are doing a great show, and I'm very happy to be sitting here with you.
We love having you, and our listeners love listening to you and your great stories.
Yeah, you're a real man of the world, which is interesting because ironically, normally you're traveling the globe, but this time you didn't have to travel that far for one of your recent fun events. That was, of course, the Miami F1 race that was right there in your backyard. So tell us a little bit about that. Lauren and I weren't able to make it down this year, but what did you do there?
Well, this is the first year I've been able to go because the first year GM called me, we'd like to send you a Corvette to go to the race. And I said, with tickets? No tickets. And then the next year, Alfa Romeo say, oh, we'd like to send you a car with tickets, no tickets. So, but this year, I was first invited with McLaren and Jack Daniels for dinner before, and I went, and it was fantastic. I got a chance to meet Zach there and a few people from Jack Daniels and McLaren, and they made this special bottle F1 collectible, whatever it is.
Wow. So Zach Brown, who is the CEO of McLaren Racing, was there.
He was there. I got to meet him, talk to him. He told me, you got to try this because I guess he had something to do with making this. It's a really special Jack Daniels, I don't know, 30 years whiskey. And they gave me a taste and I said, well, that's what I got because they gave me a little glass when I left. But then they sent me an email. We like to send you a gift, and this came yesterday. I said, "Oh, wow!"
That's a gift.
That's a huge gift. And if you want to see this as our listeners, you can go to our channel at the Drive Car Show with Lauren and Karl on YouTube, and you can see everything, including us and what Al just showed us, which was very impressive. Whiskey bottle mounted in a very impressive whiskey bottle like holder frame thing. You want to see it?
This is carbon fiber. I mean, it's like
it's not leather; it's carbon fiber.
Yeah.
That's
so it's
collectible.
like, wow.
Yeah, that is the coolest.
If you're a Jack Daniels fan.
The next day I was invited to the suite with a Cadillac.
Oh, so you got to see the race.
I got to see, and I was surprised because in Miami, I asked how much. The first thing.
For a ticket for the average person to come in?
For that suite, to get into that suite.
Per person, $12,500 per person.
To sit in a suite?
Yeah. And it was completely sold out. Whatever it is, it was sold out.
Wow.
But that was Cadillac. So everybody had a suite. They were all sold out. So I was doing numbers. I said, oh my God, how much money do I have to spend with my wife and my daughter or whatever? $50,000 to come here and see the race. It was incredible. And then the collection of watches. I said, oh, I was dying there.
So, you're a watch guy.
Look at that. And legs. All the ladies with the mini skirts. It was like
you were in heaven.
and there, I was surprised. Nobody was watching the race. People were talking, and because I don't know, I don't get it. It's like a fat car.
It's become an entertainment event, unless I go for the racing and not for the social side of it. But obviously, they're trying to make it. They do the same thing with Formula E, which is the electric version. They make it a social event and not really about the racing, but it's really about the racing, the cars, the brands, the drivers, and I mean, he's huge Max Verstappen fan, but they're still struggling over there at Red Bull.
And I got to meet Checo. They got him, and I got to meet him. And I asked everybody, what do you think about the new cars and the battery and all that? Nobody likes that. Everybody's unhappy with it. I don't know what's going to happen with that. But for the rest, it was fantastic. An experience. I guess on my own, I'm not going to spend that money to go.
That's a lot of money. You're going to spend a whole ton of money just to sit at a race. So we did talk to Henry Payne, who's a regular on our show covering racing as well. And he was sat in at a presser. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it or be there, but he said they're going to bring back V8 engines, which all the drivers are happy about, but not until 2030. But I think this electric battery thing, it becomes more like go-karting and who can hypermile the best, essentially.
Right. Even the sound is different. Okay.
Yeah.
Before the race, they have Porsches going by. They really sound good. When the race started, then it was different. It's not the same. So I guess I don't know. We'll see what happens. But as an event in Miami to show off, this is it. This is like the number one. You know.
Yeah. Well, I was in. I went to Dakar with Land Rover a couple months ago, and we got to drive the cars that are very similar to the cars that they were racing in Dakar. And I've always been a fan of racing that's based on cars that have something to do with me. And I've honestly never been much of a fan of racing that has nothing to do with me. And that's why I'm not the biggest F1 fan. But I love hearing what you just said, Al, because like if you watch that video on my channel, I literally at the end of the thing, I talk about this topic and I say, look, I think a lot of people go to certain races and certain categories and certain racing leagues, and it's just a club of people and all, and no one's even watching the race. It's just all about saying I'm wealthy and I'm special, and proof that I'm wealthy and special is that I'm here. Okay, so what do you think the rankings and the camber and the new engine power and the power to weight and all the rules? What? Oh, you know what you're talking about. So that's what a lot of racing is, and you know, I don't want to demean people who go into it that way, at least not out loud. But I'm not into that, so that's just me.
And I love the racing and going to the races.
I met the guy who put that suite together. Yeah. And he has cigars, and people were like questioning about the cigars, and they called the mayor. I don't know if I can say this. I guess you can beep it, but the mayor said, "This is my city. I do whatever the fuck I want." and we have cigars.
Wow.
I like it.
That's very Miami, and it's become like the place to be. People are leaving New York City and moving to Miami, and there's a reason because there's a lot going on. It's become international.
Even if you're getting smoked, everybody had a cigar.
See,
you gotta hold it. Cool.
You got to live the lifestyle. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We will be right back after a few words from our lovely sponsors on The Drive with Lauren and Karl.
Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. This segment is brought to you by Classic Tube. If you're restoring a car, maybe you love your car and you'd like to keep it alive longer, and you need new brake lines, fuel lines, transmission lines, you can get them pre-bent, ready to bolt on in stainless steel or original steel. They're bent on perfection and all made here in the USA in Buffalo, New York. Check out Classic Tube, made in the USA and bent on perfection. Now, we were talking about F1. And they were all electrified, and the drivers hated it. And Al got a chance to talk to Checo or Perez, who is racing for Cadillac. But now we're hearing GM, after I took a lot of heat from some internal people saying, "Oh, we're going all electric. That's the way we're going to go. We're 100% in on it." Well, it looks like they changed their mind, Karl.
Yeah, you know, I don't know whether it's the racing world or the consumer world, but both worlds seem to be speaking their mind. And we live in a country where, in theory, markets are supposed to decide versus various agencies that have nothing to do with the average consumer. But the racers and the drivers don't like electrifying their F1 cars. And apparently, people who need to move things around with big trucks and SUVs don't like electrifying their big trucks and their SUVs. It's almost like there's a theme going on here, Lauren. And GM has essentially admitted that they are indefinitely delaying their next-gen truck and SUVs that are powered by pure electricity. And this is after the Sierra EV and the Silverado EV trucks. I just was looking at the numbers on IC Cars recently on our monthly report. And guess what? Those are among the slowest selling and lowest prices, like furthest off of
giveaway
MSRP.
Prices?
Yeah. So they're giving them away, and they're still taking forever to sell, according to our reports that I just looked at for the last month. So again, the market has spoken, and a lot of people on various parts of the political spectrum don't like what the market's saying, but as I like to say, Lauren, you're allowed to love reality and you're allowed to hate reality. You're not allowed to deny reality, or you can, but it'll get you in trouble. And I think maybe some automakers with some billions in write-downs in the recent months might be experiencing what happens when you deny reality. So.
Al, what's going on a global basis? Because you travel the world. There's still a high demand in other countries for electrification?
No, there's not. And the infrastructure is not there also. If we don't have it complete, there is completely, they don't have it. If you don't get it installed in your house, the charger, you don't have it. But they're pushing it really hard everywhere I go. So when they ask me, I always say what I said from the beginning. I don't like it because the first thing I don't like is if I'm not sure if I should do this, imagine sitting on the battery the whole day. So I don't like that. I know Ford also has the lighting on hold for now.
The lightning truck, yeah.
I don't know to when, but internationally, there's a few cars in Bolivia, also in the Dominican Republic, but they having a really hard time to sell it. In the dealer in the Dominican Republic, the BC4X, the electric they got there.
The electric Toyota, yes.
It's sitting there. It's sitting there, and I did a video, and it's sitting there. So I mean, what can you do? You know, people. I don't know.
Lower the price and hope that somebody buys it. I mean, we have that same problem here in the Buffalo area with people saying, you know, if I come in and I go, oh, you still have that sitting there. Are you interested? They get all excited. Really? We want to sell this one we're forced to hold. And you're right, Al. And I find it interesting that the Chinese are still pushing electric. Now, you've seen a lot of Chinese cars. They're all electric, or are they offering gas and diesel and
I would say 70% electric, and then small engines, 4 cylinders that they have. But BYD is the one with more cars everywhere electric. And they're going to keep pushing that, not because they want, but because since it's from China doesn't have oil, they have a carbon, so they got to push electrics. You know, in China, it's like 60% electric already on the streets. Wow. So yeah, they're pushing it, and we'll see what happens. They every time I talk against it, they call me anti-climate, anti-whatever, communist. They call me everything, and I say, well, first, I don't believe in this climate stuff, but you can call me whatever you want. I say what I want to say, you know?
No, that's good. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, and we will be right back on The Drive with Lauren and Karl and our special guest, Al Vazquez. Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. I'm Karl Brauer with my co-host Lauren Fix and our special guest, Al Vazquez. And this segment is brought to you by iSeeCars.com. That's where I'm the executive analyst. And this is a incredibly effective consumer site for seeing all the listings for vehicles, new and used, across the country. Now, you can do that on a lot of sites, but you can also see things like predicted lifespan, which you can't see on a lot of sites, and a lot of other metrics that they don't show on your typical listing site. We've got over at IC Cars. And we also have a lot of great guidance on basically what cars you should be buying, what's going on in the market. We just did a study on vehicles that are selling the fastest versus the slowest, so you kind of know if you can go in and negotiate harder because it's a slow-selling vehicle. iSeeCars.com, that's where you'll get all that information. So we were just talking about the challenges of electric vehicles, for instance, at GM, and they're not going to be producing their next generation electric trucks or SUVs, probably because when people use electric trucks and SUVs like they use regular trucks and SUVs, moving stuff around and getting work done, the range falls off a cliff and they don't get any value out of those vehicles. So what if you just say, well, Karl, let's just get away from trucks and SUVs then. We'll just do cars. Well, Honda is not a truck company by nature. They're a car company, and they are delaying the introduction of their cars, their bread and butter. The Accord, the Odyssey, and the HR-V, along with their luxury brand Acura, is delaying the MDX and the Integra till at least 2030.
Wow.
Normally, yeah, can you believe that, guys? I mean, normally you get a refresh, every 2 to 3 years, and you get a redesign every 6 to 7 years. And they're going to have to delay for like three to 4 more years than they planned because of their $15.8 billion write-down on their aborted electric car plan. They have canceled the Zero Series sedan and SUV, and they've also canceled the electric Acura RSX. And so, and also the Sony Honda jointly developed Afilia EV models that they were showing at like CES. And Lauren, you just found out that they're also canceling or at least postponing indefinitely, if you want to use those terms, their electric vehicle plant in Ontario, Canada. They just announced that that's going to not be on, that's not on the docket or on the schedule to be happening until an indefinite time period, at least 2 years or more, which to me sounds like
I think that's done. That's a done deal.
Yeah. Well, we're waiting until at least the next presidential election. That is how I read that if they say 2 years.
But that's jobs in Canada. Think about that. So if you're going to open up a battery plant and a production plant of electric vehicles in Canada, because obviously there were incentives, that they're gone, they're gone. But then there was a partnership at one point with General Motors. And Al, you and I drove together on the Honda Prologue. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember that.
And we kind of had some questions about whether it was a General Motors product or a Honda product. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes, I did. I remember that. And let's see, Carl just said that here you do a redesign every 6 years. In China, it's every 2 years, and a refresh every year. They're going so fast. So if you hold this car to 2030, inside they're going to look like old cars. I just did the Corolla. The Corolla looked like a car from the 1980s if they don't renew it completely. And I just did that. So I don't know. I think it's very dangerous to hold for so many years. I don't know.
No, you're right. You're right. From a business standpoint, financially, I get it. But from a design and consumer standpoint, the consumer wants to open the door and go, 3 years ago, I bought an Odyssey minivan, and now I'm going to open the door to the 2028 Odyssey and go, what? There's no difference.
Yeah. Well, and what I think also you got to keep in mind is the numbers we're talking here, right? Like 15.8 billion. A lot of people are just like, yeah, that's a big number and all. No, that's a massive number, especially for Honda. Remember, these numbers on these write-downs are proportional to the size of the company. Globally speaking, Honda is a rather small automaker, right? Like Toyota's massive, Volkswagen's massive, General Motors and Ford are massive. And when they're writing down $10 to $20 billion, sorry, with a B, dollars for EV issues, that's a big number for them. $15.8 billion for Honda?
Crazy.
That's massive, and it explains why they don't have the funds to now redesign or even refresh the cars that they normally would be doing much more consistently. But the scary thing is that's their bread and butter. I mean, the electric cars were never going to be very profitable for them. I mean, maybe in like 50 years, I don't know. But certainly there was no time in the foreseeable future where they'd be making money off those cars. And every automaker who's being honest, and that's sadly not as many as there should be, will tell you the way we're funding all this EV research is with the cars that we actually can make a profit on, which is our internal combustion.
You can't have a loss and make it up in volume. It's impossible.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. And now, Al, you've seen a lot of the Honda products. You've driven a lot of things from around the world. I mean, how do the Chinese cars compare? Now, we don't have Chinese cars here in the U.S., and I don't think we're going to see it under the Trump administration. And I know that Senator Bernie Moreno is putting a stop to cars, parts, and software. But if you were to compare a competitive vehicle to a Honda product, which is a very popular product, what's the comparison like?
Well, like they're getting so much better and they look so more advanced, Lauren. When you're getting one of these Chinese cars right now, you go, wow, because the technology inside, the design, not leather on the seat, but whatever they call it, but the rest
leather.
of the car, exactly. And by the way, BYD is giving you like 10 years on the batteries, like 7, 8 years on everything else. You're getting guarantees that only Hyundai and Kia are offering here. So they're getting more confident in their products and they look a lot better. I mean, it's incredible what they're doing. They're going very fast. This is why these companies here in America are so worried, because the Chinese are going so fast with good products. I mean, you can see your cameras, your drones and whatever, they're making good products. Otherwise, they're not going to sell. And this is happening for real. So all the cars here, I have an Escalade right outside my house. Inside this car, I saw this 5 years ago from cars from China. So I think we're behind, big time.
Right.
Very
well, and as Lauren and I often say, Al, there's two kind of components here. There's where the Chinese cars are at. There's really three components. There's how much they cost. In both those areas, China seems to be well ahead of us. Then there's how are they doing that and how are they affording that? And that's the one that I always want to remind people of. And you're just going to sound like a broken record, but I don't care, because we got to keep reminding people that when you have the government funding your automotive industry, which is what China's doing, you can make very advanced, capable, highly competitive cars that are much cheaper than they would come in a normal capitalist system. But
let's pop that into gear.
And do we want to live under that? I don't think we do.
Let's pop it into neutral. We have to take a break to pay some bills. We'll be right back after the break. Stay with us on The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl, and our special guest this week, our friend Al Vazquez. He's a returning guest, and he gets to travel the world, seeing what's going on in reality. Because what you see here in the U.S. is just a small little speck of what's going on in the industry. So it's always great to get a global perspective. And Al's based in Miami, so he gets to do some fun things like go to the F1 race in Miami, We get to watch virtually from apart. But recently, Karl got an opportunity to go to the EVDC plant. What is that? That is a Ford electric plant that nobody knew about. And they're claiming they're going to come to market with a $30,000 or less electric vehicle. But my question is, didn't Slate say they were going to do that? And there's no more electric vehicle credit, tax credit. How is that going to work, Karl?
Well, and you were just talking about, and we were just talking about the global view that Al gets to see as much or more than any of us, and how advanced these Chinese cars are. So Jim Farley, who is the CEO at Ford, has stated on the record that he's worried about China. And we were just talking about some of the advantages they've got, like, you know, a fully funded auto industry from their government that has lots of money because, well, people over there live on communism and it's different than here.
Yeah, totally.
But how in a capitalist world can we possibly compete with that system? Well, Ford is going to try. And the thing that I think is most interesting about this is that they're being as aggressive as any non-Chinese, certainly as any American automaker is being right now, in trying to produce a 30,000 or maybe even a little less electric vehicle. And Slate from Amazon, you know, and Bezos, his thing, he's trying to do the same thing. I look at his effort and I'm not particularly impressed. I feel like,
very
you know,
basic.
It's like Spirit Airlines, which doesn't exist anymore, of course. You know,
Frontier.
We'll get you from point A to point B. Oh, you want, like, you know, oxygen at high altitude? Well, you got to pay another $40 for that on your ticket. You know, that's how Slate's going to be. It's like, here's your electric vehicle for $30,000. Oh, you want a windshield? Well, no, you got to pay for that. No. But I don't think the Ford truck is going to be like that. I think it's going to be a $30,000 vehicle, and even the base version will still, like, have a windshield and have all the basics and stuff. But how can they do that? How can they make a car that nobody else, even Tesla, has ever delivered on this promise of the $30,000 EV?
Sure. Tesla has not delivered anything at $30,000. They're trying. I think they're calling it the Model 2. And I know a little bit about that. But I do want to pivot just a touch, Karl, because doesn't the Maverick come in at like $28,000? I know, Al, you've driven all these vehicles. What's the thoughts on a global perspective? I mean, obviously EVDC is important to Ford, but how are they really going to impact on a global level?
But imagine I just drove a BYD in the Dominican Republic, which has high taxes, for $17,000.
Wow.
That's what the cost was, even with the taxes?
Yes, and it was great. It was like a small, like a Mazda 3 size car, and it drives great. It has like the same guarantee, 7 years and whatever on everything, and that's 17,000 over there with all the taxes that they have, which is high. So yeah, jeez. How can they compete? I don't know.
Well, that's what EVDC, and that stands for Electric Vehicle Development Center, just to make sure everyone knows. And it's in Long Beach, so it's not that far from me. And I was able to get up there, rode my Triumph motorcycle up there. It was fun. And I saw a lot of people they brought in from Detroit to check this place out. And what they did was they showed us how they're making stuff in a completely different way. And everything from the engineering of the vehicle. For instance, they've got one piece that is like the whole front of the car, and it is one piece. Normally, if you look at everything from like the front axle forward on a car, how many pieces are involved in that? I mean, in the average car, Lauren, yeah, thousands of pieces. They say the average car has... We
restore old cars, and they're still built that way back in, you know, San Diego's, where they actually built some of the Mustangs back then. Only like 400 a day, but that was a lot back then.
Yeah, and if you've got 5,000 parts on a car, I'm going to conservatively say that the average new car's front axle forward area has 1,000 parts, 800 parts.
I would say close to 1,000.
Yeah, and this new vehicle platform has one part. It's one big, modular piece and all that is the whole front of the vehicle. And the same thing with like the bottom of the vehicle and the top and the main like cabin area is these are like single pieces. They're trying to cut like 20% down on the parts. They're trying to cut 40% on the workstations used to assemble the vehicle. And you can imagine if you are assembling a vehicle with 40% fewer workstations and 40% less
make more product,
yeah, you can make it faster and you can make it for less money. That's essentially, think about it, that's like a 40% reduction in the cost of producing the vehicle. So there's how the vehicle's designed. Then there's like how they're working together. And there's the very much like kind of what feels like a startup in San Francisco during the internet boom, during the .com boom. Fail fast, iterate like crazy until you figure this thing out. And they had a great mantra that I thought was interesting. They said multiple times, we heard this because we heard from different team members throughout the whole process of making this vehicle. And they would say, the best part is no part. And the second best part is a part that serves multiple purposes. So that was a cool little like insight into how they're thinking about this vehicle. And think about that. That's brilliant. Yeah, it's like fewer parts, and the parts that exist are more effective. And now you've got a big front end that's one piece that is the entire basically the entire front end of the car is an example of that, kind of to the extreme. They're also working on the lithium phosphate batteries that are supposed to be more efficient. That's what they're going to use for batteries. An example is like they're going to have a cell, the battery cell, and the top of the battery is going to be the floorboard. I mean, you're not going to have your foot right on the battery. There'll be carpet and stuff between there.
Yeah, I would hope so.
But what would normally be a floor, and then underneath the floor would be, in most cars, like an exhaust system and all your bracing. And in an electric car still, there'd be like a panel, and then there'd be the battery underneath. The top of the battery will be effectively where your feet are sitting. Another part removed. You know, there's the top.
How does that compare to the Chinese? I mean, Al, didn't you go to the BYD factory?
I did. They're doing basically a factory with only a few people that you can see. But I think isn't this car, like Ford just did a deal with China to do platforms and to do a car for is this the same car that they're going to do, Karl?
You know, I got the impression this was 100% US, that there is no outside forces going on. And of course, they're thinking tariffs, and who knows what's they want to be able to claim, 100% US production. And then all this in-house like fabrication capability too of this plant. I mean, it was really neat. It felt like, I called it in my story that I did on it, like science lab vibe. It feels like a college science lab vibe because everything's very clean and bright. And there's just all this interaction between all the teams. Every team talked about how they're just constantly talking to the other teams. Nobody is working in a silo. Yeah, so that as they're trying to say, what if we do this with this part, they immediately, in the engineering side, they can immediately run, or on the design side, they can immediately run to the engineers and say, can you make it like this? And then they can immediately run to the drivetrain people and say, if we make it like this, is it okay for the motors and the battery? They took out 4,000 feet of typical automotive copper wiring. 4,000 feet, almost.
That's a lot. And it's an electric car, so there's obviously more wiring.
Yeah, so they took all that out because of how they were able to build the car. And that's 4,000 feet of copper wire cost, 4,000 feet of copper wire weight. So the idea is this thing is going to be lighter, it's going to be fewer parts, it's going to be less expensive to build, and it's going to be super efficient, both in how it uses the energy, and it's a 48-volt system instead of 12. So you can imagine that's 4 times the typical current that's running through a modern car's
like a hybrid
system.
Yeah.
So it's an incredibly industrious effort here. They're really aggressively trying to compete with the Chinese and doing everything they can to cut cost, cut waste, cut time,
but can we outdo the Chinese?
But can they get there? Well, that is the question, and we're going to know next year. This compact truck will be the first vehicle, but they're claiming they have a whole bunch of them. They're going to spawn off of this.
You see it? Did you see it, or you didn't see it?
They showed us like a kind of a skeletal thing. They even gave us a little toy car. I should have it here to show you, but they gave us a little toy car, and it was just like a skeletal thing. But you could see it was the same thing that we've seen so far and what we saw in some of the rooms there that they were showing us. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but we will be right back with our special guest, Al Vazquez, on The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. We are both here, and our special guest, Al Vazquez, has joined us to talk about very important topics, both globally and locally. And this segment is brought to you by Karl Brauer Cars. That's my YouTube channel. I'm putting up a couple videos a week. Recent videos include the new Aston Martin DBS 12, very fun vehicle, 690 horsepower, and a beautiful, even by Aston Martin standards, this is a beautiful car. But you can see all the videos I'm putting up on a regular basis over at Karl Brauer Cars on YouTube. Now, we've been talking a lot of international stuff, but let's talk local this time, guys, because there's a local issue that's very much U.S. oriented, although we can see previews of what it has done in other countries, which is not a good indication, related to the infamous kill switch. And Lauren, you have been all over this story. You have been talking about how there's been legislation and then it could have been removed, but then it wasn't removed. Right. And now it's supposed to be coming in 2027, which isn't far away. I mean, I'm already driving recently a 2027 Chevrolet Bolt. So 2027s are coming soon. And if these kill switches start being installed, well, I don't like what it means, but Lauren, you tell us exactly what it means.
Well, it was supposed to start in 2026. So under the Biden administration, there was a 2021 infrastructure bill, and the goal was, that's how they passed it along. We're putting in roads and bridges and fixing airports, all the things that we all like, thank goodness, this is what we want. We want fix the roads, the bridges, all that stuff. And that's what it was sold as. Well, part of that, in that bill, that law that passed was the flock cameras, which we've just discussed before. That's every single intersection tracking your information. But there was also buried deep, as always, passed at night, as always, Section 24220, which is the Kill Switch Act. Now, they're not calling it that. What they did is they said, we're going to put in technology to limit drunk driving. Okay, well, none of us want you driving drunk or under the influence of anything. There is nobody that says, oh, yeah, I'm for that. Okay, so they use that through their lobbyists to push it along and get it into this bill. What it truly is it checks your eyes, which cars already do. We've known this for a long time. We get that notification, hey, you might want to take a break and take a cup of coffee. Then we're also listening in the car, which your phone already listens, but this is through the center screen, and it's also part of the car itself. Also, it's tracking your eyes through your rear view mirror. There's a couple different companies, but that doesn't just track you. It's your passenger. It's someone in the second row and the third row, your dogs, your little babies, everything. It tracks everything in the car. And now they're going to add in something. This technology is not here, but they're already working on it. And there's already been a couple patents I'll tell you about in a second, where you put your finger on the start-stop button and it says, Karl, I think you had a drink at lunch. We're not going to let you drive. But don't worry, Ford just came up with a biometric patent where they're going to start collecting this information and making a decision. It's not just Ford, it's every brand, because General Motors announced just the other day, they now have a new patent that just cleared that's going to be based on your gait. So what does that mean? When you walk up to your vehicle, you're walking. You know, you could have a limp, you could have a hip issue, you could have a one leg shorter than the other, you could have anything. Maybe you tripped and your knee hurts.
You sprained your ankle.
Right, and it's going to detect your gait, the way you walk toward the vehicle, to determine if you're under the influence of something. Now, that's a problem. So now you get in a car, maybe you were working out in your farm or your yard, and you cut yourself, and now you got to drive yourself to the emergency room. We all go to those little emergency centers, but you can't start your vehicle because it senses your anxiety, your stress, and it's not going to let you start the car. And while you got the vehicle started, you won't be able to put it into gear. That's a problem. Whether it's a push button gear or whether you have a shifter on the column or a shifter on the center console, it won't allow you to get it out of park. Now you are officially in kill switch jail. Wait, there's more. You're driving down the street. Somebody calls you on the phone. There's a problem. Somebody calls you in a panic. We've all had this. My mom fell. Your house is on fire. I don't know, maybe someone's in a car accident. You want to react. You won't be able to react because what's going to happen is the vehicle will put its four-ways on and pull over. All of that is part of what this Kill Switch Act is. And Representative Thomas Massey, Chip Roy, John James, now we've got Kevin Self, a couple others have all jumped on trying to get this removed. It's a little late. They already signed it and passed it.
Well, and it just sounds scary because again, it's once again, it's technology controlled by the government, deciding things based on what they think is right or wrong. And we've all seen this in past efforts, the law of unintended consequences. And I'm picturing, the worst case, one of the worst case scenarios. There's a woman, she's got a boyfriend, a husband who's abusive. He's done something terrible to her. I'll just let your mind roll at that. And she's gotten away from him. And she's run out to the driveway or out to the street where the car is. And she's massively panicked and upset, as she should be. And maybe she's even limping because part of the attack caused that. And she runs up to the car, tries to get in it. And the car looks at her gait, looks at her stress level, looks at her heart rate, and says, "You're not fit to drive. We're not going to start for you." And
Can you imagine that,
her,
Al?
of course, is the guy who caused the problem, is chasing her down.
Yeah.
Well, imagine I go to the gym on legs day. I come up like, so right. When I did that segment that Lauren sent me some information, I mentioned all cars are going to be worth more, but then I saw news this morning that auto parts are closing. You're not going to be able to buy parts for the old cars, and this is all made on purpose. That if you don't find parts for the old car, they're going to make you buy a new car. And I said, "Oh my God, is this going to happen?" I don't know. It's really bad. Why they want to liberate Cuba? I don't know. Maybe they should leave it like it is.
Yeah, really. We're getting more like Cuba all the time, unfortunately.
Yeah, really.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break here, and we're going to come back. But keep the kill switch issue in mind, and if you have the ability to call your representative, do that, and tell them we don't want it. We'll be right back on more with The Drive with Lauren and Karl.
Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Our special guest is Al Vazquez. And this segment is brought to you by Car Coach Reports. Cut through the noise. Get some news like we're talking about, kill switches and all that other information. No spin. And you can find that at carcoachreports.com. All my car reviews are at carsmarts.com, or just go to our YouTube channel and you can find us by just putting in Car Coach Reports. All right, so we were talking about these kill switches. Now, during the break, and if you miss any of this, you can see it on our YouTube channel, The Drive Car Show. So you can check that out. It's also our social media. Now, Al, what's it like in other countries? Like, are there kill switches? I know Europe has them, and they're already in play.
Well, in Latin America, they don't have them, but they're talking about it. I just was talking to my friends from the Dominican Republic, which they have a big cars podcast there. And they said, well, if that comes here, it's not going to be an issue because we're going to take them off. We're going to hack them and take them off. Everybody's and we're going to stop the country, and this is not going to work here. No.
Well, the Dominican will find a way.
I like that. I like that. I want to move to a country with that attitude about that kind of control.
Yeah, they're going to stop it, and I believe that it's going to be a new business. Come and we take it off.
I like it.
They'll be shipping their cars there. But, part of this is also like, how does all this work? Part of this knowledge and information comes from those flock cameras. So every single intersection, almost every single town, are these little teeny lights that you might not notice at the intersection. So next time you're at a stoplight, look up and go, I never saw that little red or green or blue light before. Well, that's those flock cameras. That's part of the infrastructure bill, taking in that data, plus the data from your car. Now, these kill switches are all operated through AI. So this is not like a person's in Detroit going, oh, looks like Al had a drink at lunch. None of that. It's all done by computer. And once you're in kill switch jail, there's no way to get out of it. We don't know how long there is. There's no determination. And just so you have an idea, because always follow the money, $450 million has already been put into a program that doesn't exist. Somebody's making a lot of money, and it isn't us.
No.
And what happens if you're sitting on an electric car and the car decides to not go anywhere and it kills itself and you're not able to open the door? In Miami, you die 10 minutes later from the heat.
True. You don't think about that. You think about the bulk of the country. In Miami, if it's super hot out, you could roast in your own vehicle or freeze if you're in Buffalo.
Yeah. Well, see, now the flock cam, remember, we're going to get all this safety, as they say. We're trading our liberty for safety, which someone once said, anyone who trades liberty for safety deserves neither. But if they start using these flock cameras at every intersection, plus the car itself measuring its assessment of you, then you've got something tracking where you're going constantly. And a lot of people think, well, how could they really track, again, as you mentioned, Lauren, AI, that's going to, when they're putting up these huge data centers, we're trying to figure out how to have small nuclear plants to run it because of all the energy demands. But once you've got the ability with AI and the power to run it, it's like omniscient. It can look at every single camera on every intersection, in every city, in every state across this country.
And make a decision about you.
Yeah, and make a decision about you specifically. Because I think a lot of people, I always get so frustrated, by the way, when we talk about this kind of thinking and this George Orwellian stuff. And the average person can be so naive. Well, I'm not a terrorist. I don't have anything to hide. And it's just like, so you think that you're perfect, right? Because you don't consider yourself a terrorist with anything to hide. You've never, well, like we said, had leg day at a gym that caused you to have a bit of a limp as you walk to your car, and suddenly your car won't run for you. You're not a terrorist, but the system that we've created and the technology that we've set up doesn't let you have full freedom of movement of yourself, even though you're not a terrorist. So again, quit being naive and thinking that, I don't see how my little life could be the concern of anyone else. Well, you're going to find out. You're going to find out the hard way if that's your thinking, and you don't. And you'll fight against it.
Another person drew a reel that this car will be able to detect weapons. If you have a weapon in the car,
really,
it's not going to let you move. A lot of people have weapons in the car.
Yes,
it's not going to. They're going to detect that somehow. I don't know how, and the car is not going to move. That's it.
That would be an interesting thing. So I know they could take alcohol and possibly some other substances, but if you have a weapon in the car, what if you're a police officer? That'll have to be disabled.
Or you have a CCW. What if you have a concealed carry permit and it's totally legal for you to have your gun in your car with you?
Point.
There you go.
Going to be interesting, Al. The world is changing, and I know that you are bringing us reports from all around the world. And it's interesting to see what's going on because this is impacting all of us every single day. So make sure that you contact your elected officials.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a great show, Al. Thank you for joining us. A lot of good topics, a lot of great discussions, a lot of things to think about out there.
Find Al at Al Vazquez TV. He's all over the place. He's the #1 Spanish reporter on the auto industry. He's fantastic. Make sure to check out Al Vazquez. We'll put it down in the description below.
All right. And we will be back again next week with more interesting topics on The Drive with Lauren and Karl.
You've been listening to The Drive, your trusted source for the latest car news, expert reviews, and real insights into the automotive world. Thanks for riding along with us today. You can check out the entire archive of every episode on our YouTube channel, The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and join the conversation by leaving your comments. We love hearing from you. Until next time, stay safe, enjoy the ride, and we'll see you right back here on The Drive.